Okay, let us continue into the matrix of change, or the new reality programs as it is also called. Before I begin exploring the material, just keep in mind that I'm not doing this because I'm endorsing it and saying, oh yeah, thumbs up. I'm giving this as what we could say, this is how they do it, and what can we do, as in not trying to go against their programs, because you will like be a fly up against a bear. You might be annoying, but in the end you won't have the ability to move it, or like a little bee trying to move a wall. That's the the vision they have given me, as in kind of, yeah, you're like the bees that are trying to move a wall, right? So we will pick our fights and understand, okay, where can we put in our energy, and where can we adapt our energy system, and in what way, and in what modality, and all of these very complex patterns of information that we need to learn to deal with. And for many, this is going to be a bit of a difficult change, to work with such complex information systems and understand that freedom is no longer something that we have. We had a high degree of freedom under the old world order programs, but it was not to gain liberty. It was actually to ensure that the choices of own will and freedom working against the reality field then just created more distortion in the personal energy fields, and by that led to well, if you want to mess things up, well, you do be my guest kind of ideas, where people would then just do whatever they wanted to do, and then they would be pushed further down the regression spiral, come under more and more severe and negative programs, and by that ended up in the underworld and then pushed out into the abyss. So that was the old world order programs. It was kind of engineered that way. And that's instead of the overtakers coming in and monitoring and doing all sorts of stuff, they came in once a month. The bloodlines were to secure this. And as the bloodlines kind of began battling each other and didn't really know what they were doing, well, then it just kind of all fell apart. And then the Dracos traded off most of their projects to incoming races, again, insectoid races, parallel universal matrix races, and they just let go of it. They just handed over their business to the parallel universal matrix and said, here you go, we're done with it, we have got what we need. It's a fucked up reality and nobody really knows what's going on, but if you want to do this, here you go. And then trading off the business. That's how it's been done. So we are in this difficult challenge where we have to learn. And I'm going to use business ideas, because as change makers, it kind of rings more into the business understanding. And we are entering into fourth dimensional settings that are run by races that do business. They are within trade. So that's their modality and that's their rule set. And that's why I'm shifting from when we did the progression work, we were talking within the pillar program, original concepts of consciousness development. And that's still there. That has not changed a bit. But here you are to learn to work with it in the reality as it is and not what you want it to be. And it's no longer under the old world order program. As I keep saying, it's like when it rains, you can go out, you can scream and shout at the rain, you can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't change the fact that it's raining. Similarly, as the chemtrailing today is heavy outside, does not change that either. No matter what I do and how many grays I'm taking out, the chemtrailing is still ongoing, because it is part of a very, very large program that is now being implemented. I have made the Google site, and my hope is that it will stand in the years to come. But right now, many of you that are doing this, you are getting ready here in 2022 to do the shift. And for that, I have made the public domain on the Google site with the whole project New Reality program news and updates, where I put in what is put into the public domain, as in this is what's been put into the collective, so that humans that are going to do the transition under the new directives will be able to understand, being given from what we call an outer source or an enclosure source, that kind of explains this so that they are sure that you have got it. But of course, again, it is always said in a vague way, because the goal is, of course, to make you trip, to make you to fall back into your old world order ways, where they will then be able to say, well, you had 3 attempts, you didn't line up with the new directives and the new rules of engagement, so therefore we can rightfully push you back or wipe you or clear you or do whatever. Similarly as the Dracos did with their projects here, just kind of letting the old programs run the mill of exclusion, but here they are now implementing 4D technology to do so. And that's because they want to do it in an expedited rate. They're going to assist, as they call it, humanity, the chosen ones, to do the transition that is scheduled to be completed in 2035. So that's kind of 12 years program that needs to run in an expedited rate, and people that follow the directives and the regulations, they will be, as in kind of, it's kind of when you say, isn't directives and regulations the same? Again, with the words, directives are vague laws. They are similar to the laws, and if you break them, you will come under scrutiny. But a law, you'll be punished right away. A directive, you will have 3 choices to correct your ways on your own behalf. And if you don't, then the directives become what we call a transgression, and your transgression rate will be too high. You haven't got your ducks in a row. You haven't fall in line. That's the word. You haven't fallen in line. So therefore they are now allowed to do whatever they want to do to wipe your energy system and clear you of whatever is there of unwanted genetics or unwarranted genetics, both according to the new reality programs. And remember, these programs are in alignment with the hidden people, the enhanced humans, the old lineages that have remained, that are now what we call part of the bloodlines, the ones that shifted side. It is done by, if you want to put it that way, the secret government, but that word is mostly been utilized by the Americans, and they are adhering to the parallel universal matrix races. But some of these are also working under the new reality programs. Nothing is never simple, because in the 4th dimension, we're talking about non-locality. So inside the enclosure, we have jurisdictions. Outside, we have non-locality. And that means the only way that people can be divided into the different groups, right now we are all entangled in all sorts of ways because of the old world order program. So they need to create sectors. And how do they create sectors? They first and foremost create a new reality program, which is the matrix of change. Then they begin to put in different choices and different strains and challenges and crisis inside the enclosure, which is our world. And then they let the collective programs run on the frequency level. That's the event program 3.0. And now we are on 4.0, which means we're being connected to the 4th dimension. So they have worked in 1.0. That was the first one that people kind of, oh yeah, I want to go there. As you remember from the 2018, everybody, oh, the event is coming, right? Not knowing what they signed up for. And that was a joint collaboration by all of the incoming races. They joined all of that so they could then divert it and create division, that's the word, into different sectors that they laid the foundation of. What is kind of what were under the old programs they had either traded or got or bought or stole or whatever. It doesn't really matter, because when nobody is in charge, then it's free play for everybody. It's kind of who can get people. Let me say it the way as it is. These little suckers inside the enclosure, if they're still doing their old ways, and if we can trick them into becoming part of our programs, we're up for the game. If people don't know what they're up against, not our problem. This is how it's done when they are creating these different jurisdictions. And you have heard me the last 10 years keep telling you again and again and again, beware what you connect to, beware what energy you connect to. The law of participation, you get entangled into programs if you're persistently being too curious. Yes, curiosity did kill the cat. And this is where we are. So if you kind of don't know how to restrain yourself when you feel that huge parasitic pull to do something really stupid, because your parasites are now under a new type of cube technology, and it's pushing you to follow that push to go into that new jurisdictional level under these new factions, well, then it's on you, because you kind of got the information, right? But you still chose to do something else. And that's how they're playing the game all the way through and through. There have been so many messengers in different ways and different forms. And humans are still doing their old ways. So now the new directives are coming in and literally putting in what we could call an effect on the free choice information. First, that was the event program 2.0, where we kind of began to narrow down as more and more giving information of. Again, we're also struggling with what we call the dark ones and all these kind of things. But technically, the event program 2.0 were lodged in 2019, and I'm not going to say the word here because you know exactly what I'm talking about and what's been playing out the last 3 years, where we learned new reality settings. We learned that we are not to socialize as we used to do. We are not to just do our everyday business. Tourism, entertainment, all that's desire-driven that leads to underworld upheavals and uprisings were to be learned to be controlled. Because the event program 2.0 were rearranging the second cycle. And people that didn't understand that were then pushed into the second cycle and were literally taught the hard way. Well, if this is where you want to go, this is what you will get. And then, of course, they had the counter to try and balance, because we were kind of running out of balance, because people really didn't understand what was going on. So there we had the counter move, which you know, and they will continue to do that using different modification programs to ensure that the human genome will not link up to the second cycle. And you know exactly what I'm talking about here. So the new versions of that. And then we are having the 3.0, which came here spring, and that was the frequency fence, allowing for integration of collective new ideas and sciences, easier to, instead of doing the personal link up with what we call smaller memory drones and clones, by the way, attached to the ones they were targeted. They have now generated what we call insertions into the magnetic field that are now completely controlling the human emotional field, mental field, and biofield with the event program 3.0, and by that upgrading the needed momentum of humanity to be able to do the transition. And that's part of the next step of the event program 4.0, where those of us who were clever enough, and I might say it as it is, I feel it is being clever enough, because when you are fighting off or trying to stand strong when there is a kind of a hostile takeover, you have different options. Either you bow down and you say, oh yeah, I surrender, which we don't. But then we stand strong in our own energy and learn to maintain our own energy field in that manner, showing that we are not a burden of their programs. We are not going against their programs. We are not warring against their programs. We are just picking our fights and doing our own business and clearing our own energy work so we can continue developing sorts of insight, enclosure, reality program, new, again, directives, regulations, whatever, under these new laws that are coming in, because they are technical. There's the law, that's the strict one, the directive, that's the three choices. And regulations are kind of, well, if you choose to follow the new highway, well, then you will be under regulations where you will get the information when you're off, and you will get the choice and option of how to do it differently. So that's how it's going to be. And people will choose how they're going to do that. If the ones that are going to be stubbornly attached to the old world order program, they will be the old order program because they chose that. And then going into retirement and the exit route, right? And then there are all the ones that needs to learn that things are changing, and that's the majority of the public domain. that are not knowing of energy or anything. So that's part of the new reality programs as well. Handing over sciences and new ways of perceiving reality that will lead into perception of holographic fourth dimensional features that will unfold within the next 10 years, just seeding it in like little drops here and there, and then it will change into the fourth dimensional setting so that can be completely implemented into the enclosure. That will then clear out a lot of what we could say old world order program configurations. And I'm here saying it in a vague way because I don't need to put out the big bulletins here, right? So or the great headlines of disaster, but you know what I'm talking about. And that is what's going on. The choice is how you're going to play that game. How are you as a change maker going to play that game? Are you going to be one of the ones that stubbornly stick in your own ways and are stuck in your ways in your comfort zone because it's too fear provoking, or you just generally stupid not to understand that the world has changed, and you can be like Don Quixote, or how it's pronounced in English. You can fight windmills if you like with your sword and think that's the enemy. But the matter of the fact is the enemy is you, just being in general, normal, common sense. And when you do the progression work in the correct manner, following the laws and the principles and the rules, you will recreate your original energy system to be part of the original timelines, which of course have been tampered with. So we are to transform them into code streams and then reconnect to the original outer domain reality field, where we then work with the original ways of transforming who and what we are so we can leave. And that's the goal. And to maintain yourself and keep yourself in the loop, you need to know what you're working against. Again, I keep referring to the SWOT analysis. If you don't know what it is, look it up on YouTube or wherever, and figure out. I'm talking about that in course material 1, 2, and 3, Changemaker courses 1, 2, and 3. So I have given you the psychological skills to do this. I've also given you the progression work of how to work your energy system. Now it's up to you what you choose to do with it. Now I'm giving you the facts of the reality you're part of. And you are to choose if you are going to do that Trinity system of progression work and psychological developmental processes that fits the reality you're part of, and then choose your fourth option. So you create your version of the fourth dimension to be of your choice and your energy building. And that's the choice we have all the time. And we are allowed to do so because that's part of what we call the original rule set of all races inside the reality. As I said, there are no jurisdictions, but there are territorial directives and laws and regulations. And as you are visiting a system, you are under these laws and directives and regulations, and you are to adhere to them because you are visiting, you're diplomatically visiting that reality field. But you are allowed to be who and what you are, but you're not allowed to go against the world you're part of. And that's one of the original laws of the races that we are going to play along with, because we are changing ourselves to the original progressive worlds. And in that, we come under the statute of being diplomatically visiting this reality field to complete our work. Or you could say being in the Exodus, at that as the world changes, we are allowed to do what we need to do to finish our business here. And then we are on the path of removing ourselves from the reality field. And by that, showing by the way we work, our intentions, and the way we perform our everyday lives, adhering to their laws, directives, and regulations, that we are working in a way in concordance with their reality, and thereby is not a threat. So when we do get the cubes coming in telling us stop doing that, then we follow that and change our ways because we pick our fights. If we don't listen to the cubes as just again, then we will be plunged into the old world order version of the reality program, because that is there. You want to have your freedom to do whatever you want to do and fuck yourself up. There you go. Go back in, see how it is to be what you want it to be. You don't want to be there. Okay, good. Then this is the directive you need to follow. Okay. So that's the new reality program, how it's going to be administered. And this is going to be difficult for quite a lot of you that are so accustomed to that you can do whatever you want to do. We just saw it when they implemented the first step of it to teach us that the world is no longer energetically safe to be in, and they used the 2019 to 2022 version of it. You know what I'm talking about here again, avoiding the algorithms. They're going to get smarter. And with that in the future, it will still run. It will be as a reminder that the reality, the genomes of humans are contaminated and are connected to the underworld that creates ailment, that creates what we call bodies that will go into deterioration. And yes, they will be upheld for a while, getting painted blue, as I talk about in the older material. And that will keep them going for a while. But the painting blue is not about for them. It's about for the majority, as a kind of saying, well, we don't want the retirement program to go completely whack with underworld energies, because then it will be a zone of dark energy inside this reality, right? And we're trying to prevent that. So we'll keep it as in kind of a dormant state or a stasis state, until the ones that want to have their freedom to do whatever they want to do and fuck around and be perverted and cling on to perverted programs, perverted movies, perverted leisure time, perverted grown-up entertainment, or whatever they want to do, well, they will be positioned there, because that's not wanted. The new races don't want that, because that creates distortion of the energy field. It pollutes the genomic structure. And it goes against the whole upgrading of the human genome to be able to be in the fourth and the fifth. Because in the true fourth, in our perverted version, in our reality, that's part of the old world order program. And that's what it led to. The technology got contaminated. The Greys got addicted to sexual energy. The Dracos pulled out. It was a catastrophe. So they are now coming in, looking at us as a business that has completely messed up all of its market potentials and has ruined its portfolio, has destroyed all products and completely messed up the machinery and the technology of the factories. The board is completely, inflated and perverted and corrupted. And it all needs a huge cleanup. And unfortunately, it's one of these businesses you can't just level with the ground. So you have to go in and you clear up the top, and then you work your way down until you get to the crewmen and the on the floor people, the commoners, the generic ones. And then you begin altering them once you have cleared out all of the other levels, because there's no point in changing the workers and the breeders when the top level is corrupted. So that's what they have been doing, and they are working their way through with these new reality programs. And now it's time to change the enclosure. And we had a bit of a taste of that. And we have learned that when the sound is going off, now we go in isolation. When we get the information, now it's time to do this and that, whatever people do. They are no longer questioning this. Because they are learning the hard way that the world out there is dangerous. And we're seeing more and more environmental factors that are playing in. So they are pushing us on all of our buttons to learn to change our ways. And the next step is the utilization of energy and the resource allocation of what we call planetary resources, planetary energy, and what we have to make good of and what we can make do with, so to speak, as humans inside this reality. And it's all about learning us to minimize and stop producing and stop creating all of this surplus insectoid entertainment, desire-driven technology, foods, entertainment, service, doesn't matter. Our world is in all ways and forms insectoid, desire driven, and that is what they're changing. They're also clearing out the artificial fourth, and that's the event program 4.0, where they're getting rid of the insectoids, they're getting rid of all of the old races that are here, and humans that have that type of genome inserted into their fields of regress genetics, as well as being linked up to these factions. They will first get the choice to do it their way, following the directives. And if not, well, then it's the 4D drone technology will wipe. It's just how it's going to be, because they're done with the insectoids. And I must agree that I'm not fond of the insectoids either. I'm seeing how they are like little termites are chewing their way through everything in this reality. And if we had kind of what we say already going the wrong direction from the 60s, where they came in with free sex and free cannabis and free God knows what, right? Okay, cannabis was not free, but you know what, the hippie movement, along with their little avian friends. Well, we have just seen how the growth, the population growth has grown exponentially since, because they're just this whole high on sexual energy, high on perversion, high on drugs, high on alcohol, high on cigarettes, nicotine, whatever gives a kick. That's their thing. That's what they're here to do. They are like tourists. They're just chewing everything up and then they move on, or grasshoppers. They don't care. They're here to have fun and then they move on. They are part of what we call the cleanup crew of realities that are entering when once it reaches a certain level of negative momentum, they come in and then they do their thing. And then if the reality field had a chance to go back online, it is definitely being deprived of that via the insectoid. So therefore they must go, and they are not. I've been battling with these in 2016, and I don't see any value in keeping any insectoid genetics whatsoever, nor do I see the value in the scavenger reptoids or the regressed avians. All of this just kind of has to go. And then there is, of course, the cleanup of the mammal. And then we get very close to humans as we know of it, because we have these 4 sequences in our human DNA, the ATCG, right? We know now the C is the insectoid. The G, whether on what that is, and the A and the T, I don't know that yet, but I kind of go towards that the A is probably the raptoid. So then we have the T and the C, the Gs, and I don't know that yet because it has not been revealed, but at some point I'll probably know, and then I can tell, oh, that's what it is, and then you say, yeah, what am I going to use that information for, right? That information you're going to use when you're able to see your DNA sequence, and then you'll be able to remove whatever spores that are left or insertions that are applied to your human genome in your biofield. And that's some of the 5th dimensional sciences. So we could say the C was shown, it was shown to me actually, because that's where we began clearing out in 2016 the insectoids. And that has taken a long time, and they have just pushed us further and further and further into the dark worlds and the underworld, which we have seen. So that's part of what's being cleared up. And am I kind of, again, since I'm here sounding as if I'm kind of endorsing it and saying it's a good thing, nothing here is a good thing. Everything is just messed up. And it's just kind of navigating through all of these different challenges of how to somehow create a path out of this mess. And since humans are not on the progression work, which if you ask me, what would I choose for people, then I would choose that. But that's the hard path for most. And history has shown over and over and over again that humans are not really equipped for that hard path. They are so regressed. They are so linked up to the artificial 4th and 5th that whenever they try, it's a pull that demands more than what they necessarily are ready to give for the cause, so to speak. So that's part of the problem. But let us see as humanity as a whole begins to move down the collective path of the new reality programs, if they will figure out, okay, that was not so funny, and the world is not so funny either, and environment is kicking my ass, and inflation is hollowing out my savings, and whatever I'm used to be able to buy is no longer available. I can't put on electricity at night. In Germany, they already do this switch off at night. We'll probably see the same, which is okay. We don't need to have lights on at night other than street lights, right? Shut everything else down, or household electricity in factories that are running. But all of this lighting up of buildings and water fontaines and all sorts of bullshit because it looks pretty, including the whole Christmas light up during wintertime. All of this we will learn. That's not going to happen similar as we have learned the last 3 years. Yeah, you're not to go out on bars and whatever you want to do and do your usual insectoid fornicating ways. You have to learn to play within social distance, and have to learn to keep yourself clean and not just shedding off all sorts of contaminated, dirty fingers and what have you, coughing all over the place. It's about learning to be observant and responsible for the world that we are part of. So that's the reconditioning programs that we are under. It's part of that as well. So the big thing is the 4 main systems that we are going to go under. And the whole goal of this is to shift the holographic reality field codes. Notice that one, from the old world order programs and into a new type of reality programs that can uphold 4th and 5th dimensional fields. I'm here reading from the article that you'll find on the extrasystemic add-ins on my website under the Pioneer work. Because this will tie into what we can, when we begin to work with the sciences, the 5th dimension, and begin to create a new types of businesses, we need to understand that this is the reality we are part of. Similarly, that those of you who've done your own business, you have learned how to do accounting, you have learned kind of how to market yourself. That's some of the things that will change, because there will be rules about how to run businesses. I'm beginning to get the indications of that as well. And marketing is not going to be one of it. It will be like if you are following the reality program code sequences and the way that you're supposed to utilize energy, for the upholding of the existing reality field, but are transforming the energy that you are using. So you technically are maintaining yourself, and by that are not utilizing energy from the surrounding reality field in ways that are going against the incoming programs and the host fields. Then you will be allowed to do your business. And secondly, if you then into your business integrate some version of support for the new reality program, sounds like a mafia, right? Some support for the reality program, you will then gather further allowances to do your work, and in that will not come under restrictions. That's the law. So that's new ways for us to learn to do business. I'm just going to do the new reality programs here, and we'll continue with the Changemaker material. And then I'll begin to look into, okay, now we have learned to be part of the new societal structure. We have learned the new financial systems. We have learned the new marketplace. We have learned what humans can and cannot do. And from that, we can, and the new type of governance, by the way, there will come new legislations and new regulations and new laws and legislations that will teach us how to play in this new reality where we are all going to learn to minimize and downsize our use of energy. And they're just getting ready for that one. Now the explanation is the shot of the gas from Russia. You see how that all plays out nicely, and how things are being played in that way. And you can then say, are Russia playing in for this option? No, but it has been used as an opportunity to get other legislations and rule sets in play that were not possible beforehand. So also saying the incoming races, have they put in play the 3 last years of underworld surge of energies that are creating ailments in the human body, as it always does with these ancient types of viruses? No, but they used it as a process of implementation of new programs and onward and so forth. They are taking the options that are being given and are using it to implement the new. And we should do the same thing. Learning that dynamic, it is what it is. Okay, how do we deal with it? How do we implement it into our everyday lives so we can have a local jurisdiction inside our reality field that is ours and ours alone by the ways that we are governing it and doing it. And in that also understanding that for now, we cannot create jurisdictional zones where we have others under our protection. And it's not advisable either, because humans are literally not yet conditioned to understand how to utilize energy correctly. And if you as a person try to create a community and you have other people under your wings, you will become responsible and reliable and accountable, not reliable, but accountable for their actions, because that's how these races operate. Remember the hierarchy? The one at the top is accountable for the fellow members of his team and the ones that are within his power pillar, or her, not her, it's mainly his in these realities. They are humanoids, right? So with that, having what we call the male consciousness structure, not the Y chromosome. They don't do chromosomes as we do. They have a different type of genetic makeup. But let's just use that terminology, because in a way it's impossible for us otherwise to talk about it. So here, by using words that are not the same as this is how it is, but they are similar enough so we can use the words to gain some kind of understanding of the dynamics that we are dealing with. So this is just kind of understanding that when we do this, whatever we're going to do in the fifth dimension is all about codes. In the fourth dimension is all about rules of interaction, potentials between life forms that are existing within the same reality field. And I talk about this extensively in the progression work courses, leading into the top level of this understanding in the whole template science courses. It is all about shifting our perspective from the ways that we have been accustomed to do things and learn to work with energy from a holographic code level, which means holographic radiation vibration, to energize and clean up and activate and produce new types of codes that will shift us out of the old world order programs. And to be able to do so, we must change our ways, whether we will it on our own, or we are going to be forced to do it by the new directives and regulations. And the 4D technology will assist humans in doing so. If they don't know what they are doing, they will get the warnings, and if they can't hear it, they will get a smack. And then they will learn it the hard way by being pushed back into the old world order programs and the deteriorating timelines where we will get sucked dry of energy, because when we get pushed back in there, we will see the horror show that's going on, energetically speaking, in the artificial fourth. I was just there last night. And then you just kind of learn, yeah, not going there. Not really where I want to go, similar to the old third cycle and second cycle underworld features, which are also kind of, yeah, no, thank you, I'm good. I just cut that loose that ties me to these cycles, because not really where I want to be positioned, not worth it. Because the struggle as we're trying to maintain our energy system will become more and more difficult as our reality loses more and more of its viability. So we must play the game by the host fields, or we will be pushed into the world that is now being pushed towards the abyss. That's how it is. You want to get energy to be who you are and do what you need to do. You follow the laws, you follow the rules, you follow the principles. That's the progressive worlds. Under the worlds coming in, you follow their laws and their directives and their regulations. It is how it is. When you're part of a reality field, you play by their rule book, or you go somewhere else. Okay? It's just how it is. So that is part of the new reality programs, as I talked about. And all of this comes down to codes. Because what you do, what you are, how you think, how you feel, how you operate, how you work with the energies of your reality field are part of the original dynamics of our world. And we are being shifted into what we call a combination of future reality host fields, parallel universal matrix host fields that are all pushing us away from the original reality field that we used to be part of. And in the beginning, we will have a foot in both camps. Some of us will be mostly on the new reality field programs. Others will be, I don't know how this is going to play out. You'll figure out on your own where you are due to your energy work. It's simple as that. What you are dealing with, if you have energy, if you have overview what you're doing, if you get information within that are kind of telling you do this and that, whatever, and you're not getting more contaminated by it, then you're probably under the new directives. But just be mindful that this could just as well be energetic parasites that are tricking you to keep you on the old world order program timelines in the artificial fourth, linked up to different grays that are still trying to get a foot in into the parallel universal matrix. So we can't really say what is this and what is that. The only thing that can discern between these things are you in your clearing work, because when you clear, you will see what you're dealing with. If you kind of have something coming in and you're going behind the overlay, you see a gray, well, you know what it is, and then you know how to clear it up. right? So it all depends on what do you see at the end of the vision, the voice, the information, or whatever you're getting. What is in? Is it a cube? Is it a drone? Is it an insectoid? Is it something that wants to maintain itself by using your energy field? All of these kind of things. The only way we can learn this is by doing our daily energy work and clearing work and get the sight back. That's the only way you're going to do this. Just going along thinking all things will fix itself. It's not where we are anymore, because we're being prepped to be able to go into the fourth dimension. And there, what we are will determine what co-streams we will connect to. What we are will determine what kind of races we will be surrounded by. What we are will determine what kind of reality segment we will belong to. So that's your choice. If you want to be high up in the end of the food chain, you better play by the laws. If you want to be at the low end, do whatever you want to do. You can be part of the scavengers. They don't care, because in the low end of their reality, they have the same abyss wearing out dynamics as we are having. So that's a reality setting we can like or not. It's just because we have been in oblivion and have not been knowledgeable of these dynamics for a very long time, other than in the Hindu systems of karma, right? But it has been distorted, so nobody really knows what it's all about, and just thinking, oh yeah, karma's a bitch, right? But not knowing the boomerang. What is the boomerang effect? Is it just, yeah, you'll get placed down a little bit further down the chain in the next life? Yeah, but what are the greater implications of it? Right? So it's all about what are the greater implications of our choices, which I also teach you in the progression work, to be wise in your choice making. And now we're going to have 4D drones that are going to smack us, scan us and smack us if we don't play by the regulations or the directives, right? So that's just kind of how it's going to be. So again, to understand, going back to the text material, my goal is not to make it a quick series of podcasts. Actually, I'm going to extend it as much as possible so I cover all details of it. Because what I want you to understand here, similarly as I try to explain to you people, and those of you who've been following my material for 10 years, I've been talking about this, not knowing exactly what it was for 10 years. I've been trying to warn you, I've been trying to get you to do your work, but you have stubbornly clung to your old ways because you are so much in your comfort zone. And these races, they know that. So they are creating reality programs that are going to modulate from within, and you can either follow it or you can work against it. And if you choose to do so, you're in the old world order program. You're out. There are no second chances. They don't go with second chances. You have 3 tryouts, so to speak, when you mess up something, warnings, as we saw it on YouTube, right? You get warnings. And if you don't follow these, that's how they got it implemented as well. But now you'll hear it in your head, or you will feel it. Then that's it. They are playing it out in virtual reality now. It's just a matter of time before they implement it, or it's not a matter of time. It is now being implemented into physical reality. That's what I wanted to say. They have played it out in virtual reality first, and now it's being implemented into physical reality with the 4D drones. So with these new program settings, it is possible to upgrade humanity genetically to withstand the regressed reality timelines that are a disruptive factor of the current reality programs, and in that are destructive. You can hear I am talking from a level of information of the program cubes that are giving this broadcast, which are then using the English language in a manner that is suitable for their concepts. And again, tapping into I'm not having an alien standing beside me telling me this. These are the event program 3.0 that are giving the collective programs for those of us who are receptible for the information, so that we can provide it to our fellow human beings. Again, I'm reading the information system of what the purpose is of it, so that people can be prepared and ready to follow with the new ordinance and the new reality as it is being uploaded and arranged into our reality field. End of sequence. So with that, it's that understanding. And again, we are not used that kind of in-head link up to reality programs. All of the different races are, and in the original Pillar project, we had the holographic teaching system. They're using that old technology to do the same thing, which is why I'm so easily linked up to it, because my template and energy system has the configuration of the holographic teaching system. So it's just for me shifting it a little bit in a different direction, and then I'll just link up to their program cubes and how they are running their segments and their realities. And that's how it is in all realities under the different humanoid races. They use technology. In the progressive worlds, we link to the councils. And if we are, again, we also have holographic teaching technology, which were part of the LPU. So we use the technology there. But in progressive worlds, we are directly linked up that there are these huge spheres that actually holds the information of what's being discussed in the council. You could say it's kind of a holographic sphere that you can connect to consciously, and then you can get all of the information of what's going on in the councils and what they are deciding, kind of a new sphere. But you can, sorry about that, you can effectively and actively participate in the council meetings via these spheres. So if you're going to these groups, I have depictions of it in many of my books. If you go to these meetup places where these simple, beautiful communities, because there's no need for all of that technology, but you go there and then you can consciously link up to that, and then you become part of the council, you can hear what's going on, and you can, via the energy of the sphere, create a holographic representation of yourself in the council meeting like everybody else is doing it, so that no matter where we are around in the quadrant, we can all participate in the council meetings, and our voice will be heard and our ideas will be discussed. And what we want to put into the joint reality field we're all part of, for the highest good of the many, will be taken into consideration and taken very seriously. And it will be voted upon. So there are these very, very direct democratic ways, and everybody has access to that. We're born to put that way. We're engineered with that access. It's part of our energy system. But it also means that if we are doing something that is segregating ourselves from the joint fields of the true human races, we are doing that by our own means. We are literally working against all of the information systems that we have that guides us into the highest purity rates, the highest standards, and the highest progression rate. And if we choose to go against that, well, then the first step will be the humanoid walls and the LPU and whatever, and these kind of things. So you see, the dynamics are the same there. They're just less punitive. They are not kind of called penal systems. I like that word, penal. It took me a long time to understand that it's about being punitive, because penal for me sounded a lot like penis, right? But for me, kind of, yeah, there's a little bit of phallic father punishment thing going on in penal, what do you call it? Effects of whatever you're doing. So I'll rather prefer punitive, and I'm spun off there. Close that one down, back on track. So with that understanding, sorry about that, my mind works in mysterious ways, as you know. So in this shifting between the different realities, we are in the Trinity system, as I taught you in the transition science courses, from the psychic energy to the psychic processes, keeping the psychic energetic balance, and how you work with these dynamics in rebuilding your emotional field that needs to be cleared. But we can say that those who have been chosen to be part of the new reality programs and have the viability rate that they have looked for, the programs will in themselves expedite your clearing of your emotional field. It's not going to be done for you, because we have to show we master the usage of energy. We call it transform energy in the progressive worlds, because that was transforming the D13 collective. But the D13 collective is, in overly speaking, positioned in what we call energy streams and code streams and reality fields that are part of an older universal structure setup that needs to be preserved. Hence, their laws are more strict, because they need to preserve something that naturally should have gone into what we call pralaya, should have ceased to exist and were being sucked into the abyss. And with the new elevation cycles, they will lose more momentum. So therefore, of course, they are selecting humans that are either have a viability rate, that is of their liking and are preservable, and I'm under that category, or are utilizing the energies of the D13 collective sectoral universal structures so that you prove that you are working under the commonwealth, to use their expression, for the greater good, or in any ways or forms prove yourself to be usable. That's also when they say the correct usage of energy and planetary resources. You see, they have so many trickery layers inside of what they are saying, the wording there. So people need to prove that they are worthy of being kept in circulation as part of the planetary energy and resource allocation and new technologies. Because when they talk about changing the holographic reality field codes from the old world order programs, and they're talking about upgrading humanity genetically to withstand the regressed timelines, they're talking about their selection for what they can see be worthy of their investment. Again, trade races, they work within a scheme of business opportunities, investment, stockholders, and again, different rule sets, how they trade, with whom they trade, what is desirable to trade, what is not desirable to trade. They don't market things because it's all done by energetic dynamics. What you are is where you will be. How you use energy is what you will have to use of. That's how they create wealth. If you're working in concordance with the D13 collective and the different races that are operating under we're here talking about the parallel universal matrix, but also some of the lesser degree under the solar rishis, and you are doing what you need to do to work in alignment with the preservable of the original universal energy structures, then you will be granted more wealth, energetic opportunities to create growth within your portfolio of projects that you are, quote unquote, energetically investing yourself within. Once you have done my courses on the progression work and you have understood the principles and the rules and the laws, you will see that's their reversed version of the exact same thing. So we're just taking what you already learned in the progression work, and then the discernment is to learn to see between their version of it and our version of it, and still understand we have for the greater good and we have the highest good of the many. So this is all about us learning to not becoming as in kind of sitting on two chairs, but learning to create synergy as long as we are on the same highway, and eventually we will turn right and go on our own little off-road code streams that we have been able to generate. So for now we're on the highway, and I definitely hope for all of us that later on it will be possible to get into the smaller off-road tracks and pathways that will lead to what we call some of the not so distorted, not so destroyed sectors of our original reality field. So in this video, that is what I wanted to talk about here, changing our ways, and we'll continue in the next one. Thank you.